Hello everyone and welcome back to the Football Forecast, and today we're going to be reviewing Aston Villa versus Everton, and what a disappointing result that is for Villa and what an incredible result that was for Everton in today's game. And what I want to first talk about is the starting lineups, because it was two rival week lineups for what we usually see from these two sides. Everton without the likes of Dewsbury Hall and Iliman and Jai, and Villa without Kamara, and I think this did affect both sides going into this game and gave them limited options off the bench. And neither side really had a great bench today. Villa also had a Nana out, which would have been a useful player to bring on or start in this game over Bogart. I think also a thing to note before the game was the tactical differences that we were expecting, and that is what we got. Everton played a very direct and a very long ball game, as you get from a side like Everton, getting the ball up the pitch quickly and in the air using Jordan Pickford's massive boot. And Villa played out from the back, trying to change the tempo, doing what they do so well. And they're very good at doing this, Villa, but they were nowhere near as effective today. But Everton were a lot more effective at their game plan. And that is the main reason, I think, why they got the result in today's game. And they could have scored so early, could have. Everton went long up to Barry in the first 30 seconds. And Merlin Raw had a massive chance to put Everton 1-0 up, but he hit the post. Very unlucky. And from there, Villa looked to take control of the game, looked to dictate play, dominate the game. But they weren't really actually dominating the game. And that was the problem I felt like Villa had throughout the game. At no sort of stage I feel like Villa were really dominating the game. But they did what they usually do. They tried to change the tempo, move the ball slowly, and then quickly move it up the pitch, which they do so well. And they did create some good chances through this, especially in the first half through Morgan Rogers. And he probably should have equalised for Aston Villa. He actually had a massive chance after Merlin Raw hit the post. And after this happened, so 20 minutes after, John McGinn had to go off injured, and another injury for Villa. And Villa don't have a lot of depth right now in their midfield or sort of wide midfielders. And Villa decided to bring on Gersond, who's back from the African Cup of Nations, and he hasn't started very well in his Aston Villa career. And he was all right today, but he still doesn't have the sort of ability that McGinn does in terms of leading a press. And it's just, as an overall footballer, I think John McGinn's a very underrated player. Everton actually thought they went 1-0 up in this game through Jake O'Brien, but it was disallowed because Armstrong was considered to be interfering in play and he was offside. I'm not sure what I think about this. If I had to take an opinion on this, I would have actually allowed that goal. I thought that was a fair goal, and I think Everton were unlucky to not be 1-0 up in this game. I don't think Armstrong is hugely impacting that goal, but they stood with the on-field decision. Overall, I just want to scrap VAR altogether and we just go with the on-field decision. I just think the game would be so much better to watch if we do that. It was actually a great ball in also by James Garner, who was excellent for Everton throughout that match. And often what we can see after these sort of VAR checks or something like that, we can see a bit of a momentum shift in the game. And I think that's what we saw today. Because I thought that was probably Villa's best 10 minutes was after that goal was checked going into half-time. And Morgan Rogers had a massive chance to put Villa 1-0 up, but it was a brilliant block by Jake O'Brien, who had just had a goal disallowed. And I thought the defenders for Everton today were absolutely outstanding, putting their body on the line. And Villa had another big chance through Gissan, but he hit the crossbar. He was actually very unlucky to hit the crossbar, and Everton did manage to get away with that in the first half. Rogers had a great chance as well from the corner. It was a pretty simple save from Pickford, but I wanted to highlight that more because of the sort of brilliance I thought of the set piece for Rogers to purposely go over, get a drink of water, and even the person that receives the corner from the edge of the box. It was also very good blocking from Bogart. So massive credit to the set piece coach for that set piece. I thought it was really well executed, and more credit, I would say, to the players for executing it so well. And Everton did what they needed to do in that game, get into halftime, and that's exactly what they did. And in the second half, Villa continued to try to break down Everton. They're unable to do this, and they eventually did make a mistake, and it was a massive mistake between Pau Torres and Emi Martinez. First of all, Pau Torres giving the ball away, and then Emi Martinez has to be doing off the Dwight McNeil shot, and he doesn't do well enough. And then Tiano Barry puts the rebound in to support Everton 1-0 up in this game. And from there, it was going to be really difficult for Aston Villa, considering they had no depth on their bench, and they're so reliable on that, especially when they go 1-0 down. They're very good at coming back in games, but it's usually because they've got depth to bring on to get them those goals, and they didn't have that in today's games. Villa had one big chance for Rogers, but there's a great save by Jordan Pickford, and they had another chance right at the end through Buendia, but he put the header wide. It was a great ball actually by Tielemans for that Buendia chance. But apart from that, I thought Everton were absolutely outstanding in those final 30 minutes. I thought their game management was superb, especially Jack Grealish in that last 15 minutes. I think won about 5 fouls and really allowed Everton to get out the pitch and not allow them to sort of be defending the whole time. And that really helped Everton in those remaining minutes of the game. And Everton once again showed how good their defensive record is away from home. That is 5 out of 6 clean sheets away from home in the Premier League. That is so impressive from Everton, something you would not expect. And never mind a very good Villa side that Everton were going up against, who had won 13 out of 15 matches in all competition, and they've also been brilliant at home. It's very rare they lose at Villa Park. Up to this point, they'd only lost 1 out of their last 34 games at Villa Park. So Villa's home record is absolutely brilliant. So I really couldn't see this happening for Everton today. In terms of title race implications, and now looks very likely Arsenal will win the league. Despite Arsenal dropping a point, they've still gained from this weekend after City lost to Manchester United and Villa have now lost to Everton. And that's why I now think Arsenal will win the league, because the teams around them, the teams that are trying to catch them, cannot profit when Arsenal lose. Villa had to win in today's game. They had a chance to have a great weekend with the two title rivals dropping points and them gaining points, but they failed to do this and they're now still 7 points behind Arsenal. And I think with Villa's lack of depth and extra competition, it's going to be hard for them to pull that gap back, as well as the fact that I think Unai Emery will want to focus on that Europa League because of his previous record in it. I'm now going to go for some player ratings, starting off with Martinez in goal, and I'm going to give him a 4. He has to do better on that Dwight McNeil shot, and it leads to Barry putting the ball in the back of the net. Matty Cash at right back, solid performance, I'm going to give him a 6. Israel Konsa, also solid, I'm going to give him a 6. Pau Torres, poor giveaway, cost Aston Villa in this game, I'm going to give him a 4. Then we've got Maatsen. I thought Maatsen was actually a good attacking threat for Villa in this game. I'm going to give him a 6.5. Bogard, I'm going to give a 6. I thought he was decent in the holding mid position today. Yuri Tielemans, I thought Tielemans was outstanding actually for Villa today. I'm going to give him an 8. He's a player that deserved to be on the other side for today's result. Morgan Rogers, I'm going to give Rogers a 6.5. He was probably Villa's biggest threat in terms of scoring a goal, but he could have done better with some of the chances he had. Then we've got Bundy, I'm going to give him a 5. He could have bbeen better in today's game. Then John McGinn, I'm going to give no player rating. For the players that Villa brought on, Gassand, I'm going to give Gassand a 5.5. He was alright in today's game. He had a massive chance, but he hit the crossbar, but he was unlucky with that. But overall, his overall play just isn't really good enough and up to standard right now. And for Luca Digne, who came on, I'm going to give him a 6, a decent performance. For Unai Emery, I'm going to give him a 5, a poor result, but I'm not going to go 2-1 on Unai Emery because he's been so good recently for Aston Villa. I think something different they could have done today, which I think he needs to look back and say, could I have done something different, was attack more down the width. I know this isn't how Villa usually play, but I thought not doing this fed right into sort of Tarkowski, O'Brien and Everton as a side. He really struggled with sort of having no substitutions to impact the game, which he's been so good at doing this season so far. So then Everton player ratings. Pickford in goal, I'm going to give him a 7.5. He was good today, made a really good save with that Morgan Rogers shot. Patterson, I'm going to give Patterson a 7.5, a good performance from Patterson. Then James Tarkowski, I'm going to give Tarkowski an 8. He was great today. O'Brien, I'm going to give an 8.5. Made that crucial block for the Morgan Rogers shot. And it was very unlucky the fact his goal was disallowed. So then on to Mikalenko. A good performance from Mikalenko. I'm going to give him a 7.5 as well. Then Merlin Roll, I'm going to give Merlin Roll a 7.5. I don't think he was good today. James Garner, I thought was outstanding. I'm going to give him an 8.5. I thought the keeper, the back four, and the two holding mids were absolutely brilliant for Villa today in such a difficult game. And they were defensively outstanding. Then Armstrong, I'm going to give Armstrong a 6.5. He's a young player. It was a decent performance from him. Dwight McNeil, I'm going to give a 6.5 as well. It caused a shot that resulted in the Barry goal, but it was a pretty poor finish actually from Dwight McNeil. Tiano Barry, I'm going to give Tiano Barry an 8. Got his goal, and I thought he was a constant threat today for Everton. And it was good to see actually Barry playing well for Everton because he's been really struggling so far this season. Jack Grealish on the left, I'm going to give Grealish a 7. I would have given him a 6 up to sort of the last 15 minutes. I thought he wasn't at his best day, Grealish, but from the last 15 minutes, the amount of fouls he won was absolutely crucial. So for me, that's why I'm going to move his player rating up. Then finally, David Moyes, I'm going to give David Moyes a 9. Getting an away result to Aston Villa is so impressive. And I thought he set them up brilliant today with limited player options because of injuries and players at AFCON. And defensively, they were outstanding. Let me know your thoughts on this game as well as the player ratings. And if you enjoy, so it'd be great to subscribe to the channel as well as liking the video.